Welcome to Conversations with CASA, a series exploring trends and issues in child welfare. My name is Vicki Spriggs, and I'm the CEO of Texas CASA. We're filming on location in the Texas CASA office, and today's guest is Felicia Mason Edwards. Felicia currently serves as the FaithBased Division Administrator for the Department of Family and Protective Services. She also facilitates the advisory committee for promoting adoption of minority children and is the liaison to One Star Foundation, the governor's faith-based and community initiatives office. Felicia has presented throughout the country on how state organizations and the faith community must partner together to ensure children's success, and has consulted internationally in India, Africa, and Brazil. With more than 24 years of experience in social services, Felicia helps families, churches, and organizations understand each other's systems and how to work more effectively together on behalf of children and families. Thank you for joining us today, Felicia.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. My first question for you and for our CASA community to learn from you. Can you describe the genesis of Child Protective Services' faith-based initiative?
Well, I think it all started in 1995 with the advisory committee. So there was legislation that actually enacted and said, hey, we want to form a committee that study, develops, and looks at policies and procedures because we're looking at the huge number of children that were kind of stuck in adoptions. They didn't get adopted. And really they looked at, hey, what are we doing here? They looked at disproportionality, they looked at the numbers, and then they began to see that, okay, we have to form some sort of committee and get community input. And so from that legislation, it required that half of the committee be clergy. So that was kind of our very first impetus to really understanding, okay, how do we work with clergy in an advisory committee that's really providing knowledge and skill set and really providing advocacy to a state organization. From that, also in 2003, Senator Ogden, with a House or Senate Bill 1489, created our program, which really designed us to recruit and license and train foster families in the faith community. So initially, when you have legislation, you don't really understand what that means. It was a one-page document, and we had to create a program from one page. And so at the time, we created Congregations Helping in Love and Dedication, whose sole mission was to engage the faith community and recruit and license foster adopt families in the church. What we soon learned was that the church was saying, well, you know what, that's great, Felicia, we like that concept, but I don't think my faith community that has that many foster parents in here, I don't know if you can recruit that many out of my church. And so we really had to change our model and kind of take a step back and say, okay, well, as a state agency, we're used to dictating, to organizations what we want them to do. And so we said, how do we get this to be faith-led? How can they teach us? How can they lead us? And really, they opened the doors and opened our eyes to a lot of things. I always kind of equate it to, well, what if I came over to your house and I said, Vicki, your house is phenomenal. You are a great decorator. I love your couch. But you know what? I think your couch would be better suited from the living room to the dining room. And people think of that like, what are you talking about? And I said, sometimes as agencies, we do a lot of dictating, and we want to control the environment and tell our community partners what we want them to do, because this is the need, and we need you to be a part of our program. And so for us, we had to take a step back and do a whole different mind shift and really say, you know what? Faith community, what are stuff that you guys already have that you're doing? And how do we plug in our families into what you have? And we've noticed with that approach, we're still getting our foster and adoptive families.
That's exciting. So listening was a really big part of the initiative.
Absolutely. And we had a couple of bumps and hurdles, and, people were frustrated, and, they didn't understand the concept of how are you the state, but you're working with the church, and there's a separation between church and state, and what is this? So a lot of it was relationship building and trust. They had to really trust that, hey, if we said we were going to do something as an agency, if I said that I'm going to come out there and I'm going to train your staff, then I show up and I'm going to train your staff. And a lot of it was they just wanted to know, what is CPS? Because most people view us as an agency just as caseworkers. They know about the 30-second snippet they see on the news, and it's usually horrific. There's a child death or something really bad. And so it gave us the opportunity to say, wait a minute, unfortunately, yes, that terrible thing happened, but let us tell you about what the totality of what we do as far as staff, how a child comes into care, It's not just CPS taking people's kids. That's not what we do. There's a whole process and procedure. We connect with the judges. We work with our CASAs, our child advocates. So again, if there's ways that you see, yeah, we want you to hold us accountable, but we want you to also be a part of the solution. So we've really had to take a step back and listen to what they're saying, and then create stuff that what they want to do, which is something that we weren't used to. We were, again, used to solely doing recruitment of foster parents. And they're saying, well, we want to do backpack drives. And we said, okay, great. Well, we want to do a sock drive. And so we're asking staff, do they need socks? I'm like, yeah, kids, I guess, need socks. So let's do a sock drive. And it's kind of morphed into an expanded volunteer role. And I think for us, we had to change not only us recruiting the church, but our motto is we want to recruit every individual within the faith community. So everybody sitting in the pew. We understand everybody can't be a foster adoptive parent, but everybody can do something. So whether they volunteer and do babysitting, whether they donate clothing items, whatever they can do, they can cook a meal. We've gotten churches to say, you know what, we have a meals ministry, and they're going to provide meals to our kinship families, to our foster families in the community. That's wonderful. That's a great opportunity, because our goal is to also find those support services for our families once they do become licensed. Because one thing we also know is that typically within the first year or so, they're done, and because they don't have support. They don't get to go on date nights like some people. So we're saying, hey, faith community, can you do a parents' night out for our folks? Once a month. It doesn't require a whole lot. It could be a movie night. It could be whatever you get creative. We're all for. But that helps our families in retaining our families as well.
So it creates a system of support, essentially.
Absolutely. I think we have a model that does a great job in Waxahachie. They do a phenomenal job. It's called the Oaks, and they started out with just praying. They said, well, we're going to take 300 of our folks in the church, and we're just going to pray. And then from that, they saw, well, how do we help them with meals? So we're going to provide meals. And then they said, well, we want to get some babysitters. So then they had the babysitters training. And what we saw from that, and then they had a home repair ministry. So for those kinship families that, their houses are maybe a little bit older, grandma all of a sudden has 3 grandchildren that she wasn't anticipating to care for daily. But yeah, guess what? She has a hole in the wall. Well, can somebody go and repair the hole so we can license her and get those kiddos placed in the home? So they started that ministry. So they were able to complete 30 projects. And from there, they realized, guess what? We've had 178 kids through foster care in our church, and 23 of those are getting adopted right now. So it's great because it really is a holistic wraparound approach. It's something that as our agency, we can't afford to provide. We would love to provide services. We just don't have the money to do that. But the community is really stepping up to really care for the community. And that's our mission, is if we can really get back to community-based care and say, hey, community, these are folks right here, 2 doors down, right in your area, right in your zip code. How can you help them?
Super, thank you. Mm-hmm. Will you talk about, and you've already kind of touched on this, but some of the successes you've experienced, and then what do you see as future challenges?
Wow, well, we've had a lot of successes. Probably the first thing that we've had since I've been back is back in November of 2016, we had a faith summit at the Capitol. About 200 people came. And so it was really a time to just see each other, get to know a lot of the various programs across the state that were happening. And from that, people wanted to do it again. And so they said, well, how do we do this again? We're really excited. We want to share what's been happening. And so we were able to have a second faith summit. In June, we had over 1,000 people come. So, we went from 300 to 1,000 just from November to June. So that was really exciting. It was an opportunity to really get people to understand. We had various sessions there, so all sorts of ways to connect. And that's really the big thing is what we hear from the faith communities is we don't know how to connect with you guys because you guys are so big. Who do I call? You guys have 12,000 employees. I don't even know where to start. So it gave an opportunity to have what we call those easy on-ramps. So I know CASA was a part of that as well. And it was a great way to just expose people to, hey, here's all of the little things that you could do. You can start small and you can grow it as big as you want to. And you don't have to do it by yourself because there's people in the community that really have the same heart and mission, and connect with them so you're not alone in this journey.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So future challenges?
Future challenges. Well, we've got some great potential on the horizon. Right now we're partnering with the Texas Diocese, the Catholic Diocese. We're doing 1,200 of their parishes. So all of their parishes they have a focus on foster care. And so that starts as of March of this year. We're also working with gospel recording artist Fred Hammond, who is really instrumental in just really spreading the word about adoption. He said, hey, I want you guys to come to all my concerts and really bring awareness to this issue and how do we get more people involved and invested. We're still working with the Assemblies of God, so we have 600 church rollout with them to really get them on board and really spread the mission. So we have some huge things that are coming. Right now, our top initiative that we're doing statewide is Clergy in the Court for Kids, which is something that we're trying to partner with CASA with as well, but really bringing clergy to the courtroom and exposing them to what our families go through every day. I think that's the issue. Sometimes we get desensitized because we don't see it. And if we don't see it, then it doesn't affect me. And so we want to give an opportunity for clergy to come to the courtroom, hear the stories of the families, see the tears, see the kids, and really just do a couple of things. One, see, hear, pray, and then respond. How can you help as a community member this mother who may have just gotten her children removed? So it could be, yeah, I'm helping the bio mother, but also it would be great if we had somebody in your faith community that was already licensed as a foster parent so they can step in and be a possible placement for the kids that are getting removed. Providing counseling services. If you have daycares, we don't want to remove children. If we can just find safe places for kids to go while their parents work, parents may have 2 or 3 jobs and they just need somebody that will watch their children. So we have a lot of faith community that has daycare services, and how do we again connect to the services that they're already providing? So we've seen a lot with just that as we branch it out statewide, but just in the preliminary, we've seen a lot of just families begin to just say, you know what, we don't have to remove the kids if. And so we always ask our caseworkers, you know what, think about the cases that you currently have. What would happen if you had the resources, and what are those resources? And so we learned that the faith community are willing, they're waiting, and they're just saying, we can provide the resources, we just don't know what to do. And how can we do this together in a partnership where we know that we're helping to keep families safe, which is a part of their mission, where they're caring for the widows and the orphans, which is a part of their mission, and we're telling them, hey, well, we have the children, here's the families. Here, let's develop this partnership and see how it works best in your community.
Super. Thank you. So information is power.
Absolutely.
And the community is there to respond. They just need to know how.
Yep, exactly.
And then you had to do some myth busting, it sounds like, as
well.
well.
A lot of myth busting. And really just, we kind of equate it, we tell people, separation between church and state is like a marriage. It's something that we use when Bishop Blake talks sometimes. He's like, well, it's kind of like a marriage. Initially, you might get divorced for whatever reason, but sometimes when you think about the kids, it's like, how do we come back and at least if we're not married, we can be good co-parents and just really walk this walk together, because again, it's about the kids. It's not about our own individual agencies. It's not about the politics. The kids kind of get stuck in the middle of all that. But when we break it down and say, guess what? These are the needs of children in your community, not CPS, not CASA, children. And if we can get to the children, yes, here's all the supporting agencies around you that are there, CASA, CPS, to help assist, but get back to children. I think that will just remind us of, I tell people, the Lilo and Stitch movie. If that's nothing about foster care, if that doesn't bring it home, the word they use in the movie is ohana, and ohana means family, and I said family means community. And so if we can get back to community, remembering that we are family, then that means nobody gets left behind. And so our kids are the ones that typically get left behind, but having that motto, it brings us back to kids should not get left behind because we are family, we are community. Ohana.
Thank you for joining us today, Felicia.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us today as well. We'll see you next time on Conversations with CASA.